Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and today we're going to take a look at the state of independent comics in the modern age. So this ended up being a Patreon poll winner, which quite surprised me. The topic had been on my mind over the last week or so I put it up on the poll, but I didn't really think it was going to win. And I was iffy on the whole thing, since the only reason I'd been thinking about the stuff was some offhanded comments from a couple of comic book store owners on Twitter. They were lamenting that for all the content and critical praise surrounding Image, IDW, and other companies, by and large the sale and focus of orders remains surrounding that of Marvel and DC's content. They also said, though there are notable exceptions, most independent comics hardly sell well beyond their first issue. So I wanted to look into this and see if it was true that independent comics are hurting or struggling somehow. So this video is going to kind of look into that idea and how independent comics are doing. Now we need to gauge the views of these comic book stores appropriately. These are the owners of individual stores, and there's a lot of evidence this sort of thing does vary region by region. We also live in a world with plenty of direct markets through which people can read a lot of their comics online or through orders made online, not through these stores. That's something worth mentioning here, that the presence of the internet in general has made it easier than ever for comic book writers and artists to start making comics. The barrier to publication is essentially gone, and that can be a good thing. People no longer need to rely on publishers because of that. If you want to make a comic, you can pretty much just put it up on the internet. You don't even have to own a website. You just can have an account at a bunch of certain sites that host these sort of things. The trade-off, of course, is that the world of comics has become much more competitive. While the resources are more widely available, you now really need to have something special, have a lot of money on your own to promote this stuff or produce it, or do a lot of work to get your name out there. If you can do one of those things, you can be successful. So we're left in a sort of interesting world for independent comics. Things have changed, though they haven't necessarily gotten easier because of it. It's just different. There was a time where getting published was the hard part. Now that's relatively easy, since all you really need is a website or an account. The real challenge is getting noticed, getting your name out there. It wasn't hard to find a lot of examples or to hear from companies who are struggling to break through in this market and get the sales they're going to need to stay afloat. There's also a lot of examples of staggering success. Look no further than The Walking Dead for an example of an independent comic becoming a full-fledged franchise. Of course, that is a rare example, and few comics, if any, will do as well as The Walking Dead. Yet the potential is there, and this certainly isn't the only example of it. Lots of people are talking about the cool stuff the companies like IDW, Archie, Image, and Dark Horse are putting out these days. And they are, however, slowly growing a fanbase of their own. Most of them seem to indicate that yes, things are difficult, but they're optimistic, and there does seem to be a great potential for profit, while word of mouth is spreading on the good work they are doing. A nice facet of independent comics is they also tend to involve your money more directly supporting the creative team. This is evidenced when Hickman revealed he actually makes most of his money off of his independent comics compared to his stuff that he's done at Marvel, and that was in reference to the year that he wrote Secret Wars. Yeah, the big blockbuster event of that year paled in comparison to the opportunities and creator-owned profit of his Image content. A big part of this is that through the sales of original ideas and stories to various studios buying the rights for potential adaptations, that money really means more than anything else. And it's worth remarking on this. In spite of independent comics having these issues, in the present day, now more than ever, investors are aware of the potential profit of these ideas and the industries that can be built around them. A lot of creators are doing pretty well for themselves in the independent market, all things considered, but they've almost always had to have already made a name for themselves first. There are exceptions to this, but it's generally not the rule. So we're left with a somewhat uneven market, but one that does offer at least some opportunity to go forward. This stuff is helped through things like DC's Writer and Artist Workshop they host every year, which tends to promote and help the works of up-and-coming independent artists and writers. In going over all of this, I'm reminded a lot of other media industries. There's various tiers of sorts. The mainstream blockbuster content from Marvel, DC, and a few others. Mid-range content produced by smaller and bigger companies alike that aim for more specific audiences. and then the really obscure, struggling ocean of independent publishers, each vying for a stake in this industry. Movies, television, and other books are very much like that in my experience, so it's unsurprising that comics very much behave in the same way. One of three things talks in this industry just like any others: talent, money, or fame. When making this video, I wanted to be sure to avoid the easy mistake of turning this into a finger-wagging ceremony at the public. I don't begrudge people for liking superhero comics and generally paying attention to Marvel and DC over all the others, since we here at Comic Island do that just as much as everyone else. And we shouldn't feel bad about it. I like Marvel and I like DC. That's not about to change anytime soon. Yet it doesn't mean that other comics should be ignored, and if anything, they need and benefit most from people's support. A lot more than Marvel and DC content ever really will. There's a lot of great stuff out there, and that is worth mentioning too. It's very easy to check out any review site for examples of great independent comics on the market, or ones that have existed in the past. It wouldn't be hard to find something of interest to you, no matter what you're interested in. The range of stories out there is truly amazing. If you want some examples, well, if you like horror, I enjoy Afterlife with Archie a great deal. Saga's a lot of fun as a weird sci-fi, space opera, romance sort of thing. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has been a lot of fun. In the world of comics, even that is pretty much an independent. The point is, these comics are worth your time just like the rest of them. And this video is just a friendly reminder that the little guys need your help when you can afford it. Overall, while there are examples of these comics doing well, more often than not they face an uphill battle. I can't tell you which indie comics you will specifically like, since that varies wildly from person to person. But many of the covers and content you're seeing and hearing me talk about in this video are little suggestions of stuff you might like. But I promise you, no matter what you enjoy, there is a series out there that will speak to you, and could desperately use your support. For every success story, there is plenty of talented people who can barely make ends meet. There's a lot of great creators out there who are good at their job and could be one of the best. All they need is your help getting noticed a little bit more. It is worth keeping this in mind. I do want to cover more of indie comics in the future, but that's always a difficult thing to gauge what people want. So feel free to leave some suggestions for videos that we might make along those lines in the comments section below. Specifically, let me know what would help you get into independent comics more. What would help in sparking an interest or picking out series that you enjoy? So let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. Finally, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.